And welcome to the next Austmine Tech Talk. Great to see so many of you online. We're joined today by a terrific set of key industry experts. So really looking forward to hearing the story today. It's going to be a very, very interesting one. For those that don't know me, I'm not Sheldon Varco. A lot of you know Sheldon. I'm Martin Collard. I'm covering for Sheldon today, and my role within Austmine is Chief Collaboration Officer. So I essentially look after the gap between the large mining companies and the supply chain. So this is absolutely perfect for myself today. So I'm really, really pleased to be hosting this. Great opportunity. Again, just like to thank everybody for joining us for about the next 45 minutes or thereabouts. We may go a minute or two over. We'll try, Hayley and myself, we'll try to keep it pretty tightly on schedule. But again, it's a great opportunity to hear more about supply chains. It's a challenging area for a whole heap of reasons, which we'll hear about some of those today. But great opportunities. When you get efficiency and effectiveness in a supply chain, it can really make a company absolutely hum. So we're looking forward to hearing about that today. Before we begin and get into more of the detail, I'd just really like to acknowledge the fact that I'm hosting this from Perth, Western Australia, and as such, I'm hosting it from the lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands in which we will work, and particularly any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that are on the call today. Next slide, please, Hayley. Thank you. So I'd just like to draw your attention before we get into today's Tech Talk, just to remind people this is very much part of a series. Many of you have been on the line for probably all of them actually, or a big percentage of these subject areas. So we tried to put a program together that covers a lot of ESG touch points. Very complicated subject, as we know, very broad, but some great presenters over the last number of weeks and months have basically sort of boiled it down into bite-sized chunks for us. And it's been a really highly effective way of getting the message across. As you can see today, we're talking effective supply chain management. So yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. In terms of the agenda for today, and I'll introduce people at the start of each individual presentation. You can see in front of you, we got some great speakers today. We've got Adam Adil, head of SAP Digital Supply Chain. So very much looking forward to hearing about the intelligent supply chain, Adam. So you'll be the first speaker. So I'll hand over to you in a minute or two. Then we're going to hear from Connor Murdoch around the local suppliers portal, engaging suppliers in a smarter way. Really, really key subject. So looking forward to that. The third presentation will be Jenny Mulligan, Head of Product Design and Strategy at iSustain. And again, for those unfamiliar, Jenny will tell us more, but essentially an ESV focused area within Datamine. So that's going to be really interesting to hear more about that. Thanks, Jenny. And the fourth presentation today will be from Phil Spencer, CEO, Q-Master at Ion Group. And again, it's going to be all around automating some of the processes within the supply chain. So again, very, very interesting. I'm very much looking forward to that. Thanks, Hayley. Next slide, please. So just before I introduce Adam, some of the key areas today will be, as I say, intelligent supply chain. Very, very key area for all of us. A lot around smarter engagement, particularly with local suppliers, which again is a really, really key area, particularly with the relative chaos and disruption we've seen over the last couple of years in a lot of global supply chains. Local supply chains have really jumped, I think, in terms of key focus, which is terrific to see. So I want to, we're going to hear some more around that today. So how we better engage locally, which is terrific. We're also going to look at a bit more around ESG transparency in the supply chain, which again is really key, as we all know. It's a key area, getting bigger and bigger. And then the last area I've mentioned is really automation. So how can we automate through innovation within the supply chain, automated processes and approaches. So really, really interesting. Just before I hand to Adam, following the talks, we're going to provide some time for Q&A. I should also mention, for those unfamiliar, there is a Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Please put your questions in there all the way through. If something pops into your mind, you want to type it in, please do so, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. For those that we don't get to, we will try to collate and basically connect you up with the key presenters that you're trying to get the question in front of. So we'll do our utmost to make sure we don't miss any for you. It's all about interaction and giving you some good information. Okay, I think that's enough from me. So without any further delay, I'm really delighted now to hand over to Adam. I can see Adam on screen. As I mentioned, Adam is head of SAP Digital Supply Chain, Australia and New Zealand. And Adam's going to talk around the intelligent supply chain for asset intensive industries. So with that, Adam, if I can hand to you, look forward to hearing your presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Martin. Look, thank you for the opportunity from Austmine to present to you today. Just to kind of recap, my role at SAP really is around a lot of the capabilities that we have right the way through from designing, project execution, designing products and projects, project execution, intelligent logistics, planning, sustainability, and also the enterprise asset management topics all sort of fit in my remit and the digital supply chain team at SAP. So one of my biggest challenges right now is to fit my thoughts into 7 minutes, but I'm going to give it a crack. So bear with me. So we can move to the next slide. I think one of the observations that I have and that we have, working with a lot of companies in the asset intensive area is that they've invested over a period of time, invested in enterprise asset management systems through ERP or even standalone systems. They have invested in asset performance and reliability engineering systems, doing things, employing techniques such as reliability centered maintenance or condition monitoring or predictive maintenance technologies. And increasingly we're seeing, a lot more AI type technologies into that space. And many customers have also invested in inventory planning and procurement capabilities to be able to improve and have a more educated position around what their stocking position should be for parts and materials. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we see is that as depicted here, these are organizational islands within many organizations. So we have reliability engineers who are separate to the people involved with the actual work, getting work done in their ERPs, and we have inventory analysts who look at past consumption and look at past supply and try and make some prediction around the future. And the challenges that we see many organizations facing is that they have ERPs full of tasks on assets, which is based on which are based on historical. We've always done it that way type methodologies, as well as so we've got high activity levels from staff. We have an asset performance management capability where we're designing and defining asset strategies, but putting those into action can sometimes be quite challenging when we actually define an asset strategy, especially because an asset strategy is not just something that's defined for an individual asset, but usually assets come together in some system to perform a business function. So we take a function-centric view around asset performance and reliability, and when we translate that to a maintenance task on a piece of equipment, it can sometimes get complex for organizations. And we also see inventory planning and procurement, warehouses full of the wrong stuff that we don't use anymore, where we're crying out for parts that we do need and we know we need in the future. So to really what we're working on and working with industry on, and we have some customers who are leading in the space, are really working on bringing these islands together in terms of process flow and capabilities. So if we click onto the next slide, we describe the objective really is, if we just come back one. The objective really is to have our risk-based strategies that we're developing through an asset performance management system, condition monitoring, predictive maintenance, IoT, AI, machine learning, and be able to actually consume that information into the ERP where work actually gets done, but also having a feedback loop once we understand what work was done, what failure, what the actual failure was, or what the actual parts consumption is, that we can then feed that back into an improved asset strategy. And that's depicted on the next slide here. And put simply, If we move forward to the next slide, put simply, what that means is really defining what are the right tasks that we should be employing for the assets, using all of the established technologies or methodologies such as reliability centered maintenance, failure modes, effects analysis, risk-based inspection, being able to develop the asset strategy and then put that into action through the EAM system, be able to analyze the performance of those strategies, and then being able to have a closed loop. And those red dotted lines are really where we see a lot of our customers and a lot of customers in industry really struggling with, because again, there's a mismatch there in terms of the data models between an asset reliability view of the world and the actual equipment-centric view of the world, maybe from an EAM perspective. So if we move on to the next slide, one of the key things I just wanted to highlight here before we move on to the next topic is that slide there is the real to make this happen without it being a clunky integration or without it being spreadsheet uploads from one location to another. The way we make that happen is through an aligned and harmonized data model between the EAM system and the asset performance management system. And it's really important here that when we consider our S4HANA, which is our latest enterprise asset management system, that we're actually making changes in the ERP as well as deploying an asset performance management system to enable us to do this closed loop process and create those linkages between risk, criticality, asset strategy, development, tasks and operations, right the way through to execution, and be able to have that closed loop without a mismatch in the data models. And I think that's been a real eye-opener for us as we've developed these solutions, is really about the importance of those combined data models. I'll move on to the next slide if we can. And the other loop I'll just touch on is the inventory planning and procurement. And I think one of the biggest challenges we see here in industry is that a lot of people are planning supply and developing. They can use advanced analytics around safety stock calculations and being able to actually devise an inventory stocking policy based on historical consumption or historical demand. But the challenge we've got in the last couple of years is that we've been severely supply constrained. We've been in terms of material supply, but also labor supply. So using the past few years to predict what the future might look like from an inventory requirements point of view is fraught with a lot of danger. So in this instance, the idea that we have customers or leading organizations employing is to have the right strategy executed in the EAM system with the tasks and future demand laid out, and then being able to actually pass that through into a material planning capability. So it's really about managing the flow of the materials and labor in anticipation of what our future asset management plans need to be. And this allows us to address things like obsolete parts that sit around in a warehouse. It allows us to be able to have new introductions of equipment, and also filter out some of the supply side constraint, which may be actually diluting some of the historical consumption data. And I've just got a screenshot here on the next slide that just shows, actually in practice what this looks like. So, in here we have that visibility around the tasks, the bills of materials, the actual work that's required. And if we flick to the next stage, next slide, what we're able to see is that the ability to use some analytical capabilities to be able to produce forecasts of the parts, not only the parts usage at a material level, but then also the labor requirements going forward. And we've got a few examples. One mining enterprise in particular has effectively made some serious savings of the order of about $4 or $5 million in working capital inventory for one type of asset class through being able to employ this type of methodology. And effectively, they were just sitting on stock that they didn't need, that they weren't going to use, and by being able to employ these technologies, they've been able to strip that out of their supply chain. The last slide I'll show is just a little bit of a another view on the way that we can work with data at an aggregate level. So being able to have a supply chain control tower that not only identifies material in its location in transit from location to location, but also to be able to alert and detect any anomalies. And really, I think one of the key capabilities here is about being able to, when you do detect that anomaly, being able from that control tower to actually drill right the way down through the material, through the shipment, through that container manifest, right the way through down to the individual work order and the equipment and the part that's required for the equipment at that particular location at that particular time. So having that end-to-end data model is really something that our sort of leading customers, or people who are leading in industry, are employing in the space. So I've probably gone over my 7 minutes with that, but I'll just close on this idea of a closed loop between our supply chains, inventory planning, parts planning, asset reliability, and enterprise asset management, really as being the objective of what we're looking to achieve. So with that, I'll hand back to Martin.
Great, thank you very much, Adam. That was very, very interesting, and I do appreciate time is pretty tight, so apologies for that. But that was terrific. It just goes to show the value that's embedded in inventory and stock. I kind of came out of the lean world, which is all about trying to minimize stock, so I can totally relate to that. And the difficulty of getting forecasts aligned with reality is pretty challenging, actually. That was really, really interesting.
In the lean world, it's just in time, but really in today's climate, it's really a case of just in case, right? In terms of stock policies, and that's I think it's a fundamental thing that we're facing across industry.
Exactly, Adam. Thank you very much. That was great. Really interesting. Thanks very much. Now I'm delighted to hand over to Conor Murdoch, Director of Growth at Ionix, with a presentation on the local supplier portal. And again, essentially engaging with suppliers smarter, which is critical for us all. So with that in mind, Conor, if I could hand to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Also, thank you, Adam, and fellow speakers. Appreciate the opportunity today. We'll be speaking about engaging suppliers smarter, and we'll have a spotlight on our digital solution, which is Local Suppliers Portal. Next slide, please, Hayley. Quick intro on us. We are an Aussie tech agency, headquartered in Brisbane. We've got offices in London, Manila, more recently Santiago. Our development and design team are in-house here in Brisbane, but we deploy our software and hardware globally. We build solutions for a variety of industries, but mining is close to our heart. And we have our client partners, largely procurement supply chain leaders, and they assist us in steering the development of our products with their custom features and their input, and I guess shaping our product roadmap. Outside of custom, we have 3 off-the-shelf solutions: our journey management system, JMS, Fly to Work, which is a travel accommodation tool for FIFO workforce, and our local supply portal, LSP. Next slide, please. So we recently asked a few clients of some major factors that they see disrupting the supply chains. They're summarized as follows. So rising costs and shortages of goods. Adam touched on this as well, with critical goods like raw materials, equipment, shipping and transportation costs are escalated, as we all know, and rising energy and commodities prices. Next is the difficulty in engaging and retaining staff. Employers are faced with talent shortages, chronic talent shortages at the moment, particularly in those technical disciplines. There's also a constant battle with engaging young people, especially with negative perceptions of the mining industry right now. Changes to the local landscape, the war in Ukraine, geopolitical dynamics is obviously a major factor right now. And there's still some significant bottlenecks in major ports and airports around the world, especially in the US and Asia. Inefficient methods of engaging local suppliers. Organisations have limited visibility on how and where products and services are sourced, and there's a lack of communication with suppliers, communities, Indigenous partners who are engaged with the business. And lastly, and on top of the agenda really at the moment with mining companies, is meeting ESG targets. I believe some of my fellow speakers will dive deeper into this topic, but suppliers are having to meet increasingly aggressive ESG targets to their clients, making it more challenging for them to adhere to and forcing many of them out of the market. Next slide, please. So with these challenges in mind, Ionics built the local suppliers portal. What is it? It's a highly configurable cloud-based digital solution. It's designed to improve engagement with suppliers, stakeholders, and communities and where these businesses operate. Used by procurement and community teams, and also their suppliers themselves, tier 1 contractors and vendors can also have access to the portal to interact with tier 2 and tier 3 subcontractors. So it's a digital platform for that communication and process management. So it has a public-facing website, which we'll show some examples later on. It has a back-end administration portal. The website's a gateway for suppliers to maintain a profile, a digital footprint, and register their interest to work with a prime organisation. And the admin portal is driven internally. It contains a variety of dashboards and rich reporting capabilities, and it's hosted in best-in-class global data centers, Amazon web servers, or in a client's private environment. So how can it benefit an organisation? It simplifies onboarding and registration, pre-qualification processes like expressions of interest and requests for quotation, requests for tenders can be pushed out. The businesses can validate and approve suppliers and their vendors by ensuring they have correct safety HSE standards, valid insurances, modern slavery compliance. They meet diversity targets, sustainability, ISO certification, for example. They can communicate with their suppliers more effectively. They can search based on a local geography and use a broadcast message system to engage and invite them to register. LSP provides transparency on their work packages, upcoming future work packages as well. It captures investment and spend data in these local communities. It supports small business and minority businesses, and it supports a company's social license to operate and social value strategies and reputation management. And it is able to be integrated with other ERPs. We have done that with SAP Ariba also. Next slide, please. So a couple of practical examples to give you an idea of businesses who have, I guess, identified the gap. Newmont over in Mexico, a Penasquito mine, their pain points were surrounded by an ineffective engagement process with their network. They had to enhance their brand awareness in the market as well, as the mine was an acquisition when Newmont took over another mining business a couple of years prior. So there was a clear need to diversify their list of approved suppliers and manage it and measure it because seemingly the same companies were being awarded contracts year after year. So the business also lacked accurate data, and that was a demand from local government and other organisations on how much investment they're spending. So they wanted a SaaS solution made up of a public platform which supported their social value strategies. Their supply network consisted of a lot of very small businesses who may not be overly competent with technology, so they needed something very easy to use for these small companies to engage. And they also had a commitment to report to government, as I mentioned earlier. So next slide, please. So the end results are a very clean, easy user experience. It's an approachable design. It was created in partnership with Newmont's communities teams and in line with their marketing guidelines. So upcoming work packages for this project as they go through an expansion phase are issued via this portal, and suppliers outside the network can also be invited to register. It's available in English and Spanish, and they had some strict deadlines, so we turned it around quite swiftly. Next slide, please, Hayley. Here we have Rio Tinto Iron Ore, their buy local portal. Rio identified a need to strengthen the capability of local industry and increase the number of registered local suppliers in the Pilbara region in Western Australia. They wanted to make it easier for small business to compete for opportunities and maximise their local investment. Next, please. So what was produced is a platform to publish and broadcast EOIs, provide visibility of upcoming work packages. They share industry wins and supply success stories. And it's a very simple pre-qualification and validation process. They incentivized registered suppliers with a 20-day payment term arrangement as well to try and encourage more and more to get on the portal. And it was also built quite swiftly, and to date, 1.5 billion worth of project revenue has been awarded through the portal. Thank you, everyone. That completes my talk, and I guess it's needless to say that digital supply chain management will be critical to ensure resilience and ongoing agility in this challenging market.
Thank you very much, Connor. That was fantastic. That was very, very interesting, and great to hear the story around local engagement and trying to make that more effective and efficient. It's really, really good to hear. And as I said, with the drama on global supply chains currently, more and more focus on local and making sure our local supply chains operate to the level we need. So a really good story. Thanks again, Connor. I appreciate that.
Cheers. Thank you.
And I'm just going to say, everybody, please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A box. As I say, you don't need to wait to the end. Please put them in there as you think of them, and then we can try and get to as many as we can towards the end. With that in mind, I'm now delighted to hand across to Jenny Mulligan. Jenny is Head of Product Design and Strategy within iSustain. And I'll let Jenny explain more about iSustain and where it fits into the sort of data mine organisation. So looking forward to that. And Jenny has a colleague, Kemp Rutland, in the background as well, just in case we lose bandwidth. So we've covered it that way. But yeah, Jenny is going to lead the conversation. So with that in mind, over to you, Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin, and thank you, Austmine, for this opportunity to present today. I'm speaking to you all from Lutruwita, Tasmania, standing on the traditional lands of the Peretarame people, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present. So iSustain is a full-scope sustainability management platform. We've been around for nearly 20 years. We recently joined Datamine as part of the Vila Industries group, and who are developing a dedicated division focused on ESG software and technology products, of which we are a part of. So I'm one of the co-founders of iSustain, and so for the past 20 years, my work in designing, developing, and working with clients has kind of put myself and my team on all fronts, keeping up with industry, ESG, ever-evolving reporting requirements and measures, working with our clients wherever they're starting and want to go. And also we work in the trenches with our client suppliers, an ever-growing area, supporting them to use our product to collect data and provide the information that our clients need. The local suppliers portal looks fantastic on us, so we'll be talking. Anyway, in this talk, we're taking a look at the enablers that we've seen, probably just accelerating really in the last 10 years with our clients' efforts towards collaborative supplier relationships, because we believe it's all about relationships. Technology is important, but to help them achieve their sustainability commitments. So this is a really high level summary of what we're seeing. Slide, please. So enabler 1, commitment. So it's clear that access to supply chain data is key for organizations to enabling assurance to achieve their own sustainability goals and ESG reporting needs. So, and it's just going to become more critical as reporting obligations increase, and we're already seeing that. So if you're looking for transparency related to your suppliers and their cooperation with the provision of ESG data, you need to have these enablers in place for your company's transparency and reporting first, Make sure your house is in order. Formalize the commitment to do the work needed to incorporate your supplier's data into your sustainability management activities and get it signed off by CEO or equivalent. So supply chains are complex and have multiple layers, both vertically and horizontally. So appoint a cross-functional team, cover and manage the full relationship cycle between your suppliers and your organization. Cross-functional teams are essential for any type of business transformation, technology or otherwise. The closer you get to your suppliers, the better placed you are to understand their chains and collaborate for the greater good. The biggest barrier I've seen to date in organizations not being able to move forward is not having this type of team in place. Slide, please, Holly. Thank you. So this is just an example of what I call a supplier relationship management team. We just missed it. It was back one. So could you just go back? Thank you. So, but, fit to your own organization. So to get anywhere, you need two directions or two coordinates. So where you are and where you want to go. And this collective team should know everything you have in place in your organization about where you are, and also have an idea of where you need to go. And then all the work's about the map towards that. So slide. So collaboration, key. This is where the supplier representative management team is essential to collectively coordinate varying focuses into a coherent process. So, for example, you've got your risk operations and legal team reviewing existing risk and business continuity planning in the face of serious supplier breaches, because if you're going to start digging, you're going to find some things. So looking at that, revisiting your business continuity and your strategy for that. Sustainability team will need to prioritize their broad areas of supplier data collection. The big focus is on scope 3 right now, so carbon, but also water usage, pollution, deforestation, biodiversity, cultural heritage impacts, human rights, business ethics. My supplier's supplier is my supplier, so it's all going to be relevant. Legal will be looking at contractual barriers related to requesting additional ESG information from your suppliers and looking at future changes such as utilising reporting rights in contracts to obtain access to ESG data that will become more available through blockchain and AI, etc. And using mechanisms such as change management procedures to address law clauses that are changing so that they can uplift to account for changes in ESG requirements. Technology team, the Time Lords, they're looking at and transitioning us from yesterday to today, next year and into the future all at once. They need to be part of this team. Stakeholder communication reps focusing on the positive of the relationship and your supply chain, social investment, diversity, inclusion, procurement, looking at what greater due diligence can be implemented as part of that process. So while the priority for everyone is tier 1 and your largest and most material impacting suppliers, and you're probably already doing that, the strategy should be to go deeper to get the full picture. One thing everyone should be looking at is ensuring the inclusion of small and medium enterprises are in the focus because they're key to supply chain transparency. They make up, for example, in Australia, Australian SMEs make up 99.8%. Supply chain structure. So So what you're looking at in this process, I won't talk at this too much, but you're looking at extending all your information and data collection input maps and processes to start with your supplier. So, methodology, the identification and documentation of specific taxonomies and methodologies are often overlooked during the process design, and they're actually key to your structure. So you need to get into the details at some point, especially when you're looking at third-party data collections from multiple sources. Where possible, sort of get the raw data where you can, avoid suppliers having to calculate So under the heading technology, my notes say, start where you are, keep moving forward and evolve. So quick wins, and we are still here. If you still have hard copy, digitize. If you're storing reference data in Excel, start looking for more robust software solutions. And future wins. So what we're seeing today, the brilliant work going out in the world. There's no doubt digitalization and supporting technology has always been a key enabler, and it's rapidly evolving. You know, we've got Web3, blockchain, and AI increasingly in the news, championing their potential to create greater equity through greater transparency and decentralization. You know, for example, Coca-Cola, where they're tracing products from end to end using blockchain and barcodes. So integrate your technology solutions in parallel with your enabler establishment and system capacity to integrate. So slide. Engagement. So, you know, remember the organizations that you're working with may have different data collection priorities, practices, systems, and accounting standards, methods for calculating. So communicate in advance. They're also on their own schedules for reporting. So, you know, as suppliers ourselves, you know, we can get 5 requests for the same information from 5 different divisions in an organization. So seeing it less and less. And also we get a lot of urgent, I need this data straight away. So just communicate, schedule in advance. Send all of the source up guidance information you can, and then don't expect everyone to have A, read it, and B, understood it. So have your support available by phone, chat, and web. We get so much intel from the supporting our suppliers providing this information, and it ranges from, you know, password to I don't know how to upload a document, so to, you know, complex scope 3 questions. Once you embed the process, protect its integrity, change management is key. So in summary, as with any business process, these enablers need to be wrapped into your continuous improvement cycles. This is just another, you know, process or expansion of a process across your organization, and it's supported by your selected technologies. The better embedded your enablers are, the better position you'll be to implement and benefit from all that technology can bring. So to finish, we'll share a quick visual of our last 10-year supplier integration into iSustain journey. So we started building a supplier register, you know, capture all the basic information. Amazing how many people don't just have a list of their suppliers. So, you know, set that up, and then tagging. And then we realized, oh, the tags from the risk register are relevant to our supplier. And then we enhanced our pre-qualification. And to ease the process, we created a user-friendly supplier-facing portal where they can get all their information, process tasks, enter data, ask questions, access guidance material. And the most recent focus is making it easier to get more granular transaction-style data from suppliers that feeds into the sustainability reporting layer. And as a result, we can do this slide. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time, and to the other speakers. And here's some contact information for iSustain or Datamine software, and connect with us in LinkedIn if you want to have a conversation. Thank you, everyone.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Jenny. That was fantastic, and good to see that technology behaved and you were able to present. Yeah. That was really useful. Thank you very much, and also great to hear the human element is still very important. Brilliant systems, brilliant processes, business processes, but CI and people wanting, you know, the change change management elements of any program like this are so essential, and great that you brought that point out. I think, and it's really good to reinforce. Thank you, Jenny. That was really interesting.
Thank you, Martin.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And now, thank you. And now, everyone, I must apologise. We're slightly over time a little, but we started a little late as well. So I'm hoping people are still good to run a little longer, because very, very interesting slides. So with that in mind, I'd like to now hand over to Phil Spencer. Phil is CEO Q Master of within ION Group. and Phil's going to talk to us about effective supply chain management. Thanks, Phil, and over to you.
Great, thanks, Martin, and thanks for the rest of the speakers as well. It's been very, very interesting so far. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to talk to you about a few of ION's solutions which are relevant to ESG topics. Just a little bit about the ION group to begin with. Across our group, we have a number of different solutions, but there is one kind of key, a set of key threads which are consistent across the group. So we have software systems which are looking to increase efficiency and liberate people from manual tasks, and to automate where it makes sense to have a positive impact. Next slide, please. So, you know, our business is looking to automate processes, and when we're looking at trying to, I guess, improve efficiency in supply chains, there's probably a few ways that our software solutions can support ESG initiatives. Next slide, please. So real quick, as I said, we've got a number of different software solutions. I'm over in the right-hand side under ION Commodities. Specifically, my experience is relative to mining supply chains, and in particular, the mining companies, producers, and logistics is probably where my specialty kind of sits. Next slide, please. So I guess ION believes there is a significant opportunity to reduce the dependence on manual systems and spreadsheet-based systems. And you know, we believe that there is an opportunity to achieve greater efficiency through automation, and looking across different market segments that we provide software solutions to. Commodity management is one of those where you know, there is a lot of dependency on manual systems and spreadsheet-based systems still, and it's something that we believe that if we can implement a more comprehensive software solution for these areas, that we can really make a significant difference into how efficient the organisations can be along the lines of supply chain management. Next slide, please. So real quick, I've been with QMaster since 2008, based in Newcastle, Australia. I am the head of metals and mining solutions for ION Commodities, but in particular, there's a couple of products which I spend most of my time with day to day, which are QMaster and Algosys. And I've been customer facing for most of my time with QMaster. We have implementations globally in different commodities, across a bunch of different metals, and also coal as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so I guess I just wanted to kind of paint the picture on where the current situation for mining businesses. Within metals mining, there's significantly increased demand due to you know, a move towards electrification and a long-term move away from fossil fuels. So there's going to be significant growth in the demand for metals across various different mines, various different commodities. So you know, how can a software system help? You know, how can a software system support ESG initiatives and goals in that kind of background of increasing mining activity, increasing supply chain movements, you know, from mine to port? How can we make that process as sustainable as possible, as efficient as possible, to minimise the impact of the supply chain on the environment and on society? So as I said, Ion Solutions are pretty targeted at improving the efficiency and reducing supply chain costs. I was at a conference last week. One of the presenters was making the point that businesses who put the effort and spend time on ESG initiatives and goals, there's a very strong correlation between having strong initiatives. The outcome of them is that often they lead to reduced costs because the focus that you put on being efficient, doing things the most efficient way, minimizing the diesel use, minimizing disruptions in the supply chain. The outcome of that is often is highly correlated to reducing the costs as well through the improvements in efficiency. So I'll just very quickly run through a couple of Ion solutions, describe them in a little amount of detail, talk about why you would actually want one, and some of the outcomes that we've seen. Next slide, please. So as I said, my main focus has been with the QMaster product and Algosys. So QMaster is a supply chain information system. It covers inventory and logistics from the mining operation all the way to the end consumer of the product. So from pit to port and on vessels and across to the final destination for those materials. We have a lot of information relevant to ESG initiatives and goals, obviously, in our systems. That information can be used for compliance, improvement projects, but also supporting efficient operations day to day. So as well as supporting efficient operations, we have some tools in there for planning and scheduling. I'll talk about those in a little bit more detail soon as well. But in general, the QMaster solution is to manage bulk commodity supply chains and looking at the detailed information that you need around where the stock is, what quality the material is, in order to have an effective logistics chain and have effective utilization of the resources too. So through blending and minimizing processing and those kind of enablers for efficiency. Algosys, real quick, it's another one of our products. It is a metallurgical accounting system. It uses a statistical data reconciliation algorithm, which reduces the impacts of, or reduces the downsides of measurement systems to give you the most accurate results that you can get from the data for the materials that are flowing into and out of a process plant. Again, that leads to being able to manage the processing plant more efficiently by having the best possible information on what's flowing in and out. Also, the auditability and traceability. Having a sophisticated system to manage this information allows that auditability and the transparency over the information. It's much more difficult to get that kind of level of auditability with spreadsheets and manual-based systems. And sorry, what the last one there aspect as well. We've been making some improvements in our commodity trading and risk management platforms to support ESG as well. One particular example, we've got the ability to trade carbon credits in the Aspect platform now, and that's something that we're looking at how we can fit more of those kind of things across the different solutions where it's relevant. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so on to the outcomes of our solutions and how they can help in a bit more detail. So again, I said that the main thing behind our solutions is to increase the efficiency of the logistics and supply chain. So some ways that we can do that is by being able to plan and schedule better and further into the future, and be able to react more quickly to changes. There's having the information when you need it at your fingertips is crucial to be able to perform these kinds of planning and scheduling activities. If you're working on data that's out of date, you don't really have that capability to react quickly. An example of where there's a significant difference between some supply chains and others. Just local to me in the Hunter Valley, our coal supply chain, the transport link, the trains, they're basically rescheduled every single day, and the planning cycle is basically daily in terms of rescheduling out for the next few months. In some other supply chains, the planning cycle, the process is really weekly. That they only get the latest orders in from the suppliers on a weekly basis. They get submitted to the rail provider. The rail provider, produces the plan, and that cycle only happens once a week. So, by being able to shorten that cycle to more quickly turn over the plan, it means that the whole supply chain has the ability to react more quickly to changes and unscheduled events. There's a common thread there around having systems and having information that's closer to real time can really support planning and scheduling and replanning on a regular basis. Blending, so having a better understanding of your inventory, particularly the quality of particular materials that are sitting on stockpiles, that can then allow you to blend better. An example on that, I've got a couple actually. If you're running your supply chain based on cut-off grades, where if we're over a certain level for iron ore, say, then it's divided into high grade and low grade based on the iron content. But then we've also got to look at the contaminants as well. So if we're over a certain level of the contaminants in a particular material, then that can lead to that material being classified as low grade and needs to be processed further. If we've got a more sophisticated model of the stock and a more understanding of what material is where and exactly what quality is sitting on a particular area of the stockpile, we might be able to get more sophisticated in blending, and we might be able to look at some lower ore level, but it's got lower contaminants that might be able to be mixed with some high ore but high contaminants to give us a blended product, which is now back onto spec. Which then reduces the amount of processing that needs to be done and increases the recovery of that material. So again, having an information system that can provide you that information in a closer to real-time state means that you've got more opportunity to make better decisions, both in the longer-term planning time window, but also in a shorter-term operational window as well. The other example on blending, we implemented a 3D stockpile modelling system. It actually replaced another 3D modelling system, but the old one was only up to date once a day due to the processes that were required to set that model up. So it was right once a day. But the problem was that the stockpiles were being turned over multiple times per day anyway. So by the time you got to the afternoon or after lunchtime, the 3D model was out of date, and again you couldn't really use it for detailed operational requirements. So just by changing that to a closer to real-time basis, you know, we saw a significant improvement in their ability to blend onto trains. Okay, so I'll try to speed up. I know we're running out of time a little bit. I guess I just wanted to mention that the rub between, you know, automation of information coming in from data capture systems and running it into a model and having a closer to real time information source, it's actually one thing leads to another. So by decreasing the amount of manual effort to get information into your system, it actually then gives you the ability to have a closer to real time system. So, you know, you can't, it's very difficult to get close to real time information without the automation. But then with the automated data capture systems, you've also got to be careful that, you know, you can ensure a high quality of the data. You want high quality information quickly. You don't want bad data really fast. So thanks again for giving me the opportunity. If anyone wants to contact Ion about any of our automation systems, please feel free to get in contact. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, Phil. That was fantastic. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Great information. And just to let everybody know, due to time, we're not really going to get much time for Q&A, unfortunately. But what I would just reinforce, as Phil closed on there, please reach out directly, ideally, or straight through Austmine, through us, and we can connect you up. And as I say, really, this is supposed to just be an introduction, just to hear what's available. And I really encourage everybody to actually reach out to the panelists, because I think some fantastic information has been shared openly today. Really, really interesting. So I do really encourage you to connect out via email or through Haley or myself or Sheldon within Austmine, and we'll connect you up and make sure the information gets passed on. Because again, some really, really valuable insights today for sure. So once again, I'd really like to thank the panelists. I think that was terrific. So thank you for your time. It takes a lot of effort to pull together a pretty short and punchy presentation. So I really appreciate the support, and all of you doing that was really interesting. And just to close, before we sign off for today, I just want to draw your attention to the screen in front of you. You can see there, but again, there's on Wednesday, the 9th of November, so a little bit of time, but another webinar around ensuring effective governance. We've heard about some ESG governance today. We've touched on it a few times. Really, really essential. So we're trying to reinforce the value of governance. You know, it's so key to the ESG journey. So we got a webinar purely to explore that in greater detail. So please join us for that as well. With that in mind, and I'm very mindful of the time, I'd just like to thank everybody again for their time, the panelists, absolutely, and also the attendees. It's great that people find the time to come along and attend these sessions. As I say, just to close, please reach out. We'll connect you. If you think of a question or you've got like a burning issue in the back of your mind, please email it through to us if you haven't already, and we'll make sure it gets answered by the people who can answer it. So really appreciate that. So once again, everybody, thank you very much for your time. Hope everybody got some value from that. I'm sure everybody did. Hope everyone enjoyed it. And hopefully see you again at the next webinar. With that in mind, stay safe and see you again at the next one. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.